Wrestling Observer Live.
Wait a second.
This is your host on the spot. Oh, there he is. Mike Sempervive is now joining us. This is Filthy Tom Lawlor. This is the opening segment of Wrestling Observer Live on Monday, April 29th. And now that we have things finally shored away, the technical difficulties have gone the way of Roman Reigns. They have withdrawn from this broadcast. I present to you Mike Sempervive.
Started to wonder there for a second, did I get traded to Wrestling Weekly with Vic Sosa and Les Thatcher? I was wondering what was going on here, but hey everybody, how are you? Hopefully wherever you are, it's sunny outside, and if not, I hope it's sunny inside your mind. Well, no boss man today, as you can obviously tell from the train wreck that this show started as. He's got some family business to take care of, so it's Filthy and I today. Everything we have to make up for from Friday, so here we are. And even though this show's been an accident so far, it's nothing like Darby Allin's accident, and all the best go out to him right now. If you haven't heard about this, and I don't mean to make light of it, the Darby Allin accident suffered on Saturday. He was hit by a bus. He got busted up a little bit, but overall he's fine. I mean, that's like the Darby Allin lifestyle. He actually got hit by a city bus while going to a Broadway show or on the way to a Broadway show, suffered a broken nose, but made his way to the show because he perseveres like we do on this show. And we're going to start this whole thing when we get back from break. Wrestling Observer Live.
You guys.
And then Cody, the hardest thing I think in this business right now is to make a babyface. And to make a babyface that almost everybody likes. That people just aren't, booing because it's the right fun thing to do with a moment or whatever, like to buy into that story and be that guy. Cody's that guy, but he's not that guy because it was manufactured. He's that guy because he's just that guy. He's the right human being. He's the right person. He's everything you want to believe in. He's everything you want to get behind and see fight. It's all that. I'm so happy for him. And when you talk about overcoming things, he's got to go back and look at his career and the things he's done. He's forged his own path. He has done it all, and it's a testament to him and who he is as a person. He's never quit. He's never given up. When one road shut down, he went to another road. When that road shut down, he made his own goddamn road. But all of them, they led back here, and to where his dream always was. And man, without getting emotional about it, I could feel his dad today. I really could. I could feel how proud he was. I could feel him looking down when I got in that ring with him. I could feel him out there with us. It was an incredible moment, not just as a performance, an incredible moment for a human being. And he means a lot to me. He means a lot to everybody here. And I'm proud of him. I'm happy for him. And I know he's going to do amazing stuff now on this run. So super exciting. Lee Fitting, from a production standpoint, from what we're doing, from the look, the feel, all of it. You see changes happening every week on TV, and there's going to be more of them, but you see them, and I see people excited by them and just loving the changes that are made. But I'm telling you, there's so much more to come. Like, we made a conscious decision together to sort of Lee, Nick, and myself to slowly roll out some of those changes over time. There's a lot more coming. But when I tell you Lee Fitting, man, I love working with him. He has a passion for this just like we do. Might be new here, but man, he's all in. And for me, he's the kind of guy that I want to go to work for. I want to do stuff to make his job easier, and I want to collaborate with him, and I want to make things better with him. So I can't say enough good stuff about him.
everybody. Welcome back to the show. Mike Sempervive here with you. We do this show right here for an hour at a time, or at least we attempt to every single day. But if you want us 24/7, you can try to find us on Twitter/X. I'm at Sempervive. Tom is at Filthy Tom Lawlor. Bryan is at Bryan Alvarez. The website is at WONF4W. And the broadcaster is at Sports Byline USA. Jim Valley is at Jim Valley. He's here with you on Saturdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And Andrew Zarian is at Andrew Zarian. He's here with you on Sundays starting at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. I'd also love it if you made the wrestling news part of your day. Everything you need to know to get your day started or get you up to date from around the world of professional wrestling. Each episode of the wrestling news is between 5 and 15 minutes long every single day. Usually posted at about 9 a.m. Eastern Time. No clickbait, no speculation or rumors, just the wrestling news. Find it wherever you find your favorite podcast, or head on over to thewrestlingnews.com and at Wrestling News AV on X and Facebook. I also want to remind you that the F4W Online Wrestling Observer Convention takes place on Memorial Day weekend in Las Vegas. All of the information is available through the front page of the site, as well as f4wonline.com/Vegas. A little bit later on in the show, if we have time, I will tell you all about the boat ride you can take with Dave Meltzer and Bryan Alvarez when they are over in England for All In. But without any other further ado, you heard him in the intro. Now he's here officially, Filthy Tom Lawlor. And, we got a lot of things to talk about, including the ongoing WWE draft. But do we have to talk about Conor?
I guess we should. Conor is in the news. Did you watch his big announcement? Did you see what he's up to now?
He's got ownership.
He does have ownership.
Not just in proper 12, but in bare-knuckled fisticuffs.
Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship, now partly owned by McGregor Sports and Entertainment. Did you watch any of Knucklemania 4, Mike?
I love Knucklemania 4. I did see the knockout from Mike Perry on Alves there, the left hand. I did see that, but I didn't see anything else. And apparently, though, Triller really wants me to see some of these things because they've gone out and they've... Do you think he's really bought in, or do you think he's just been drafted by Triller to kind of drum up some support for this? And obviously, it'll pay off for him, too, in the fact that I'm sure he'll have a chance to hype up his upcoming UFC fight as well.
I mean, I think it's legit. Like, throughout the broadcast, David Feldman seemed like he was giddy and just couldn't hold it in as he waited to announce that he had teamed up with McGregor. If you remember back, McGregor had a face-off with Mike Perry one time in the cage. And I believe they had some business dealings after that, Feldman and McGregor. So, yeah, I mean, when you look at the payouts, because the California State Athletic Commission is one of the few athletic commissions which will divulge this information. Thank you, Andy Foster. You will see that Mike Perry made a staggering amount in the main event of this fight, $600,000. And, it seems like there's a BKFC every week. They seem to be selling out the arenas. They're not selling out like 10, 15, 20,000 person arenas every week, but they're doing quite well. And, McGregor getting back into the fight business after a few years off in, taking care of some other activities on the side. And now he's not only going to fight Michael Chandler in what'll probably be the biggest event of the summer, but also now he's got his hand in this.
It feels like forever ago that Mike Perry was a UFC fighter. I mean, and I guess in, the years that we live in that are advanced, feels like you live a year and a week. 2020 or 2021, that was it's like forever ago now, but $600,000 and Alves making $200,000. I mean, you enjoy watching this stuff. And we know Paige Van Zandt has gone to do it, and we've seen other big names. Obviously, there's always a handful of old UFC Strikeforce K1 names, the Todd Duffys of the world and folks like that we see on these.
Poor Todd Duffy. I mean, first of all, poor Todd Duffy had to fight Big Ben Rothwell, bare knuckle, which is. I'm out of. I wouldn't say that I'm completely stable, but
no.
There's no. I mean, there is a way. They could easily throw enough money at me to get me to fight Ben Rothwell bare knuckle, but I don't want to do it.
No, you're going to get hurt bad.
Yeah, and he got knocked down, and then they seemingly clashed heads in an exchange, and Todd Duffy got a stinger and lost the fight. The fight before that, one of the gentlemen ruptured his bicep, and the fight was called off. And then in the co-main event, Lorenzo Hunt, the 2-division champion, I believe it could be the light heavyweight and cruiserweight champion in bare knuckle, moving up to heavyweight, taking on Mick Terrell. He gets dropped with a punch, separates his elbow as he lands.
Ooh.
And then, of course, in the main event, Mike Perry blasts Thiago Alves, and the king of violence reigns supreme.
Is bare knuckle fighting here to stay? Because we went through a whole cycle over the 1900s of doctors and everyone trying to ban boxing. We had a lot of things happen, including when Mancini and the Dooku Kim fight that ended up 15-round fights became 12-round fights in championship encounters. And we saw a pull away from a lot. And then through mixed martial arts, through the changing and the evolving of where we are fight-wise, I mean, I never would have thought we would see bare-knuckle fighting expand in the United States with how things went so hard against MMA and boxing for so many years. But if you go to other countries, it's not like this is a type of fighting that is not around. I mean, it happens all of the time. I mean, do you think we're at a point now, just fight-wise, where this is accepted and it's just going to be one of those things that maybe never gets too big, but is going to be as ubiquitous as MMA or kickboxing or anything?
It's been often said on this very program, I'm sure, on the airwaves of the Wrestling Observer Radio, that it's okay to be Pepsi. You know what I mean? Bare knuckle fighting doesn't have to beat the UFC. It doesn't have to be the number one league in combat sports. It's carved out its own niche, and it's the number one promotion in that niche. There's other bare knuckle promotions. There's BKB or BYB, I believe. There's Dada 5000's Trigon fighting championships or whatever it was. So bare knuckle is actually the top promotion in its own niche. And I mean, if the payouts are anything to tell the story, then hey, they're doing pretty well.
Now you said it, you brought it up. We got about a minute and a half here left. Do you have any thoughts whatsoever coming out of NFL draft weekend about anything that Tony Khan did on Dynamite, sold on appearances afterward, or said during those appearances, Tom?
I've got a question.
Sure.
This AEW medical staff.
Well,
because this guy was able to move his neck freely in that neck brace when it should have been constrained in order to take the pressure off of it. I don't understand. I hope he's doing the good amount of rehab. I hope, hey, you know what? He's a billionaire or something. He's got a lot of money. I'm sure he can afford one of those iron neck devices that I see the guys using that looks like an alien helmet where you twist your head side to side.
So you're one of
I hope he's got the good rehab going on.
You're one of those McAfee guys then who wants to point out the fact that he wasn't selling correctly. Not that he wasn't selling it, but he wasn't selling it correctly. He had on the wrong device. Come on now. Come on,
hey,
Tom.
If I was wearing one of those and I can move my head around, I would. I'm questioning Doc Sampson or whoever applied that neck brace. That's where my issue lies.
If
not
you're
with
a
old
free agent
TK
out there, if you were drafted by Jacksonville, remember, keep that in mind, everybody. We'll be back. Wrestling Observer Live.
As far as what tonight was, just incredible. You know, it's a very personal business for me. And I hear that, I hear the word, and everybody will read into this, whatever. But I hear the word, oh, I love this business, or oh, that guy loves this business, or this person loves the business. I love this business. I hear that a lot. But I see it in certain people. And there's as kids say, there's levels to that, right? So there's a certain passion that you just can't take out of people. When I said tonight in the ring, I live for this, I meant it. I think it's the greatest form of entertainment in the world. And I want to see it continue. I want to see it thrive. I want to take it places it's never been before. The team that we have is incredible. I want to work with the most talented people in the world. I want to work with Nick Khan. I think he and I make magic together. I do. I want to work with Rock. I think he and I make magic together. Have for 30 years. You know, it's all about creating new stuff, taking it places it's never been before. So, as the first one, sort of, or as the first night of WrestleMania, that was in my role, unique to me and my responsibility. It was incredible. To talk about Paul Heyman, he is one of the greatest minds in this business, the greatest talkers in this business. So, you know, if you have that level of respect that I have for Paul Heyman, and then he's standing on that stage on a night that's supposed to be about him, and he is saying those things about you, it's incredibly meaningful. I was very touched. Paul and I always have had a wonderful working relationship. His Hall of Fame ring has an insignia on the inside. They can get whatever they want engraved on the inside, what's important to them. Paul said, I leave it up to you. He would have to tell you what I wrote in there, if he would want to, because it's between he and I, but if he wanted to tell you, he could.
Welcome back to the show. Mike Semper, VV, Filthy Tom Lawlor here with you. Wrestling Observer Live. Big Boss Man not here today. He will be back with 4 subscribers of the website tonight. Yes, sir. Yes.
Ray Trailer
Coming
back.
The Big Boss Man?
Yeah.
Coming back to life? Well, no, not that Big Boss Man. No, come on. Not the Guardian Angel. No, our Guardian Angel, Bryan Alvarez. I couldn't even say it with a straight face there. Yes, Bryan will be back for subscribers of the site tonight with Dave Meltzer after Raw, and he'll be back with you tomorrow here on this show, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Hopefully Paisley feels better. That's what he has been away for, so hopefully she's feeling okay now. Hopefully he's feeling okay, too. It was a long night. Kids, it's a pain. It really is. Very rewarding, but a pain. Kind of like watching the WWE draft on Friday, Tom.
What a segue. What? You didn't like it? I didn't think it was that bad. And I really thought it was an improvement. Here's what I'll say. The draft itself, it was unneeded. Everybody stayed on their brand for the most part.
Yeah.
But the presentation was much better than it has been in recent years.
I'll give you that, yes.
Was upset. Once again, where was Cletus?
Well, they're going away from Fox. You want Cletus hanging around there?
I do.
What's next?
I think I like what he's done over the past few years. He's taken SmackDown and made it the #1 wrestling show in the world. Has he not?
I don't know
and
if
now,
that was all Cletus, but,
got to give him some credit.
Well, they never gave Cletus that 1.0 and 18 to 49, and then they didn't want anything to do with him when it came time for renewals, and we saw how all that worked out. But for right now, SmackDown is still on Fox, and as Tom mentioned, everybody pretty much stayed where they were at. SmackDown, Bianca Belair, Carmelo Hayes, who, if I was not mistaken, he was already on SmackDown before, right? I mean, negotiation.
He had been on SmackDown multiple times leading up to this show, but was never actually signed to a contract. He would just appear randomly and then talk to Bobby Lashley once. Then he'd talk to Nick Aldis and he'd get a match. And then he'd go back to feuding with Trick Williams as a heel on NXT after being a babyface on SmackDown. So,
what did you think about the match that he had with Cody Rhodes? I was kind of surprised because, I mean, I get it that you want to feature him, and with Cody, that's cool. And I don't think he loses anything. Like, this is, oh my God, he dies because he lost an 8-minute match to Cody. But what did you think about utilizing him that way and bringing somebody up that, has been a star in NXT, and just kind of treating him as if you need to recondition everybody that, wow, this guy went toe-to-toe with Cody Rhodes for 10 minutes?
I think it had kind of lost a little bit of the impact because, as you said, we had seen him multiple times on SmackDown, and oftentimes in this very role of being a young upstart facing a veteran on the main roster. So I think when you bring up, obviously, like, they've done this in the past multiple times. This is straight out of the WWE playbook that you do this. You bring up the young act, you put them in against the main eventer, and you have them lose, but they put up a good fight, and everybody goes home happy, coming out better in the end. But I don't think Carmelo Hayes needed it here. I think they could have put someone else in this spot and had it been just as effective. And really, I think most of the, focus on the match was on the blown finish, or the blown spot that led directly into the finish. From what I saw leading up to that, I mean, it was a fine match. They didn't have that much time, so I don't think we really got to see what they could do, in their top condition. But Carmelo went for a springboard. Cody went for a springboard. They mistimed it. Cody landed directly on his shoulder and elbow, it seemed, and then he hit a crossroads and got the win. So hopefully he's okay. And, both guys are, obviously, Cody's a huge star. There's lines out the door of his RV. There's people wrapped around buildings to see him. And Carmelo Hayes still has a bright future. But, yeah, I think you could have put anybody else in this role as well, and maybe it would have been just as good.
Randy Orton, Nia Jax, LA Knight, The Bloodline of Tama Tonga, Solo Sikoa, and Paul Heyman, AJ Styles, and Andrade, who has also been on SmackDown a lot because of the whole LWO tie-in and leading into WrestleMania. So really, when you look at it, Nia Jax is the only one flipping brands, and I know a lot of people, I'm not saying that I want to see Nia Jax wrestle. Nothing against her, but there are plenty of people. You
could have had Nia Jax take on Cody.
But look, she is a monster, though, and she is unique, and she does have a familiarity with Bayley. And look, for as much as WWE likes to do, having somebody go over a monster on their way to winning the title at WrestleMania, often when they do that, they also have a monster on the way out the door. Bryan Danielson and Kane, there's been a lot of, times where they've done this. So in a way, I think this is probably I'm not saying the best matchup for Bayley, but it's a very good matchup for Bayley for her first feud coming out of WrestleMania and out of this draft too, as they try to work everything out.
Yeah, and Nia now put back into a familiar role. She just played this part essentially against Rhea Ripley, of all people, and Rhea played the baby face in that feud, and now she's going to do the same thing. She's going to play the monster against Bayley, it seems. And Nia Jax is one of my guilty pleasures nowadays, Mike. I love seeing her on the screen. I love seeing her just crush people. I thought her and Rhea Ripley was awesome, and I am pumped up that Nia Jax is on SmackDown because I get to watch her every week now.
See, Nia Jax against Elektra Lopez. It could happen, everybody. That match could absolutely happen. I don't know if it will, but it could. Technically, it could.
Mike, I was not being facetious. I really do love this current iteration of Nia Jax. I do not want to see her face Elektra Lopez in a match. However,
well, I mean,
sorry.
Honestly, that would be my guilty pleasure because, the match would be what the match is. And there's a place for Nia Jax. I wish she was a better wrestler. I wish there would not be wrestlers that absolutely cringe about facing her because they're afraid she's going to drop them in a way where they get hurt, which has happened. But there is a place for a Nia Jax, and even for this Nia Jax. So, again, she's got a fan base as well, too, that does not care because they're not wrestling her what things look like. They like the idea of her as a juggernaut, and it's like, to me, it's the reason that Miro can come back in AEW after God knows how much time off, and God knows how much nonsense has happened with him, because if he can come back kicking ass, I mean, you're coming back kicking ass, and people like seeing somebody big, in there in the mix beating on people. Am I wrong?
Brother, what's going to happen in 10 years from now? Are we going to look back on Nia Jax like people look back on Vader now?
No.
Because Vader was beating...
No, we're not.
Vader was beating the snot out of people as well. It wasn't any fun.
Backs.
It wasn't any fun for the people in there wrestling him.
No, you're exactly
right. But it was
right.
Awesome to watch. Hey,
yeah,
I'm a fighter at heart.
You are
right. That was my actual trade for years and years before making money doing professional wrestling. But I love seeing somebody just get punched, socked right in the face, and it could seemingly happen in any Nia Jax match.
You're exactly right about that. You're exactly right about that. Most of her ring gear made of potatoes, but also drafted to SmackDown, the OC without AJ Styles. AJ Styles, a separate entity. Baron Corbin, Cedric Alexander, and Ashante the Adonis, which technically that may be a trade over. Baron Corbin back up on SmackDown after his time in NXT. Drafted to Raw, Jey Uso and Seth Rollins. Tom, this is a guy I don't think we're going to have to worry about having any Carmelo Hayes type of 50-50 moments. I don't care who it's with. Braun Breaker is probably going to continue to do what he's been doing on SmackDown, and that's absolutely murderizing people.
Yeah, he cut poor Cedric Alexander in half with that spear. Good to see that tag team with Ashante the Adonis that they filmed vignette after vignette for social media has really been working out for poor Cedric. Hit a nice springboard and got crushed with a spear. I don't know how else to put it. Braun Breaker, that guy's pretty awesome. But they've got to get him out of these super quick squash matches. He can do more. We've seen it. He's ready. I don't think they need to reintroduce him in this manner. But, hey, maybe he'll get a push up the card sooner than later. Unfortunately, it won't be by the side of Baron Corbin, who was unceremoniously drafted to SmackDown on social media. But Baron Corbin's been awesome over the past year or so, and happy to see him back on a bigger platform. And I hope it keeps up. I hope the crowd's behind this guy.
Maybe, but he doesn't rank as high as Kiana James, who did get a televised call-up to Raw, which was a surprise to her, as they did not tell any of the people in NXT where they would be going. Liv Morgan, Ricochet, Sheamus, Alpha Academy, Shayna Baszler, Zoe Stark, Alba Fire, Isla Dawn, and Ivar of the Viking Raiders also were drafted over to Raw. Got a lot more when we get back from break. Wrestling Observer Live.
Ari Emanuel called and said, "Hey, I'm going to buy the company." I said, "Okay, what does that strategy look like?" And we had discussed that. There was talks almost 2 years ago about me returning to WrestleMania 39 in Los Angeles. Again, it felt like everything was going to dovetail nicely into that. It's a great story. That didn't shake out in the way that we had anticipated, and that's okay. I had said back then to the people who we were negotiating with, maybe it's time to put the pencils down and we'll revisit when it feels right. So I think between putting the pencils down about a year and a half, 2 years ago regarding WrestleMania 39, the clear shift of, and the actuality of the selling of the company, I think that kind of became the impetus to really look, I think, holistically at the opportunity of doing WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia. And a lot of things had to come together. And sure, the agreement and the deal, I'm not worried about that, especially when the negotiations are between myself, Ari Emanuel, and Nick Khan, both of whom I've known for a very, very long time. Nick and I actually go back to Hawaii when we were kids, and Ari I've known for over 20 years. He's my lead agent and business partner, so I wasn't concerned about the agreement. I was more so, my number one priority was, can I come back and add real value this time around, and not, coming back for hot shots one at a time. Maybe I make an appearance one night. That's fun. It's fun for the fans, but I wanted something a lot more substantial, and not only a lot more substantial, but something that we can really build upon. And so these past 2-3 months, I think we've been laying groundwork nicely, and not only building for WrestleMania this weekend, but also I think beyond that, and building for the future and what that could look like.
Welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, Filthy Tom Lawlor here with you. You know, Tom, after last year's rousing success, Dave Meltzer and Bryan Alvarez are going to return to London for a second edition of Wrestling Observer Live during AEW All-In Weekend. That is as close as Dave will ever get to a show called Wrestling Observer Live ever again. Last year's show, it sold out quickly, so guess what? They're jumping on a boat in the River Thames. I'm serious. That's where the boat is. Not in the river. Well, it's in the river. It's on the River Thames. That's where it is. This year's event will take place at 11 a.m. Sunday, August 25th. I almost said Eastern time there. Force of habit, GMT. I'm sure that's what it is. It's going to be hosted on the historic Tattershall Castle steamship. Tickets are now on sale. You can go to the front page of the site, check out more details. But, Tom, this proud vessel is permanently moored on the Victoria Embankment directly opposite the London Eye, and just a 5-minute walk from Big Ben and the Houses of Parliament right in the heart of London, England. Fans, they can enjoy incredible views of London's landmarks from the top deck before heading below deck to enjoy an audience with the world's most prominent wrestling journalists, as they will take questions from the fans on all aspects of the wrestling business, past, present, and future. Fans can purchase general admission tickets to see the show or upgrade to the 7-star VIP ticket package, which will guarantee early entry and the most prominent positions for the show, as well as a private meet and greet with Bryan and Dave afterward. Tom, this is important because, very important, that includes a photo and autographs with both guys as a memento during the biggest wrestling event taking place in the UK this year. Filthy Tom Lawlor, I ask you, do you have an 8x10 glossy of Bryan Alvarez autographed to you?
I decline to have one in my office. I don't want to actually bring down the value of my property here.
Well, in that case, you need one of Dave Meltzer, which you can get when you sign up for tickets and take the VIP experience, the 7-star fan experience. Go up to the front page of the website. Yes?
Hold on.
Yes?
I don't know how good your eyesight is, Mike.
All right. Yeah.
But if you look behind me in my office, hey, actually right over my head to the side, there is a picture of Timothy Thatcher signed to me.
There is, actually.
Signed to me. Yeah. I have a book written by Kenta signed to me. Books written by Minoru Suzuki signed. I have a McGregor versus Diaz poster behind me signed by the entire card. And you would like me to find space in here for a Bryan Alvarez. Hey, look at that one. It's Kane signed. And you'd like me to find space for Bryan Alvarez in here? I'm sorry.
Well, maybe you won't have room for it, but some lucky person that's going to be going and getting their tickets can get not only a Bryan Alvarez autographed 8x10 glossy, but also one of Big Dave as well to keep as a memento from their experience from All In Weekend. Probably the most important thing they do throughout All In Weekend is going to be that very moment there. Will you stop looking back there to see? Is there a bathroom back there? Are you thinking about putting a Bryan picture in a toilet or something like that?
I've got too much cool stuff in this room. I need to pay attention to the show, Mike.
The River Tims. Do you ever watch Danger Mouse? Do you ever get that block of I remember the Tim's programming block that would be on 6 o'clock in the morning. It was Danger Mouse and Benny Hills, but the ones they would air early in the morning, so you would see the boobs. That was always a big plus as a little kid. It's hey, all right, Danger Mouse and boobs, nothing wrong with that.
Here instead, you can listen to the boobs at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific on Wrestling Observer Live. Most of my knowledge, actually, I rarely talk about this, but I actually went to school at Cambridge for a summer on an exchange program.
Oh, get the hell out of here. Cambridge, Maryland? You were down here in Dorchester County?
No. University of Cambridge. Selwyn College.
Really?
My friend, yes.
Oh.
So I am quite familiar.
Huh?
I'm quite familiar with the country. And anybody who is going, if you have not been to London, it is a great, great city. My all-time, I would say, favorite tourist trap, the Tower of London, resides there. If you have, 5 hours, 4 hours, please go check it out. It's a phenomenal look at the history and past of a time that is forgotten seemingly nowadays. You'll be transported into a great castle from centuries ago. So check that out and then walk on over and listen to Bryan Alvarez and Dave Meltzer talk wrestling, much like, who are the commentators? Stu Bennett and Corey Graves on SmackDown.
Fighter. Yes, former bare knuckle fighter Stu Bennett there, old Wade Barrett.
The first draft pick on SmackDown last week was Bianca Belair.
Yes.
And they brought her out during the show. And they go, oh, Bianca Belair, she looks way better in a dress than the WNBA's first draft pick, Caitlin Clark.
Well, she does. That's not a lie. Although that's subjective. I think she does. Okay?
I agree, but are they offended by what Caitlin Clark's been doing in the ratings? I mean, what was up with the dig at poor Caitlin Clark? The girl's about to take an $84,000 salary to slave away on the WNBA courts for months on end. Probably get mopped up by the Las Vegas Aces along the way. And she's getting buried on SmackDown. Ugh.
I don't think we need to feel too sad for her with the amount of endorsement money she's going to be bringing in. Isn't it amazing? She was making, probably 25 times the amount in college than she would be at her professional job with the WNBA. But
do you think any of the draft picks tonight are going to get endorsement money? Who do you think is going to get drafted? Are we going to see a shakeup on Monday Night Raw tonight? Because we didn't get one on SmackDown, so
I don't know. I mean, the way things are going, it's possible, and here's why, too. CM Punk could be drafted anywhere, and he won't be showing up for a while. He is technically, even though people who are hurt are not part of this draft, and we had Roman Reigns on Friday, for those of you who were hiding under a rock, who wondered why the Bloodline was drafted so low. They actually kind of patched that up a little bit on SmackDown with Paul Heyman trying to explain to Solo that Roman's pulled himself out, and they don't know what they're going to be getting here with Tama Tonga and all that stuff, so they kind of covered up some things that way, but CM Punk is in the mix. I don't know about Giovanni Vinci. I have a bad feeling that he's going to be drafted back down to NXT, but you know what? I'll take that because I like Giovanni Vinci, and I'd like to see them actually do something with him. Kevin Owens, I would love to see Kevin Owens or Randy Orton, even though it would break up their thing. I would like to see them drafted over to Raw, and you know what, Tom? They have not announced a lot for tonight. In fact, the only things that they have announced so far are the fact that there's a draft and there's a six-man tag with Andrade, Jey Uso, and Ricochet against Damian Priest, Finn Balor, and J.D. McDonough, but they have added an appearance by United States champion Logan Paul, and again, if you want to kind of slowly ease things out of WrestleMania and try to figure out where you're at doing this draft coming out of Backlash next week, Kevin Owens showing up on Raw, Randy Orton showing up on Raw to spoil Logan Paul being there and making Logan Paul very upset that he went to a different show and he's still got to deal with the old problems. You know, I don't think that that's maybe the worst idea in the world.
Well, if SmackDown's any indication, it looks as if Kevin Owens or Randy Orton or one of them, or perhaps both, are headed towards a feud with the Bloodline. So that would have to be shored up.
That's true, because Orton's already over on SmackDown. So
yeah, that would kind of have to be shored up along the way. One interesting name that you didn't mention that I have not seen in a while that is listed here as available for tonight is one Braun Strowman, who I have been licking my lips, chomping at the bit, waiting for this guy to get back to action. Love me some Braun Strowman, so I hope he shows up tonight.
Do you think, and I guess he's listed, so they're going to go ahead and draft him, but, you know, there's all that talk about the Uncle Howdy character possibly coming back, Eric Rowan canceling independent gigs. You know, Braun coming back, I could see him being drafted and then kind of shelved for a while, or maybe kind of quietly going away for a while until you figure out what you want to do there. One of the interesting names to me on this list, because of his size and because we don't really know how much he's advanced since the last time we've seen him on NXT television, is Odyssey Jones, who made his way up to the main roster. He's been floating up there like Zion Quinn and Xia Li were, but they have not done anything with him. So it's interesting that he is still prominently listed as somebody that could be drafted. I think also, too, Tiffany Stratton ending up on Raw. I could see them doing that, keeping Jade Cargill over on SmackDown, but I could see Tiffany Stratton maybe over on Raw as a quote-unquote shake-up, even though she hasn't been on SmackDown for all that long.
Yeah, and if you notice, they haven't changed any of the titles. The title holders were protected in the draft, but we've seen this happen in the past where they schedule matches title matches with people from other brands
That's
and
what
then
I'm thinking with
switch the
Owens.
belts.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking with Owens and Logan Paul is Owens showing up after getting drafted after Logan Paul cuts his promo. Then all of a sudden they conveniently draft Owens. He gets a one-on-one match in France. And then, in theory, possibly takes that title over to Raw.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. They usually do some sort of shakeup when it comes to the title belts. But, I mean, it will be interesting to see. I would expect Ilya Dragunov would get drafted to Raw tonight.
Or wherever Gunther's going. I tell you, I think they would be more that direction, too. If Gunther somehow ends up on SmackDown, which I wouldn't think, I could see Ilya being drafted over there.
Yeah, and I think it's time that you start moving away from the LWO and Legado being on the same brand. I think it's time to split them. Lashley, the Street Profits, B-Fab, the Final Testament, all up in the draft tonight. I think you want to move those groups away from one another. So, yeah, I think we'll see some more movement in the rosters this evening.
Where we're not getting a whole lot of movement, unfortunately, Powerhouse Hobbs's right knee that was injured during last week's event on last week's AEW Dynamite in the main event when he challenged Jon Moxley for the IWGP World Championship. On this show last week, Bryan Alvarez said that Hobbs was injured. Fightful Select is now reporting as well that the injury is pretty significant, and Hobbs is not expected to return anytime soon. So that is really unfortunate because he's been a victim of stop and start pushes. But again, a guy that looks like Hobbs, you always have that ability for him to come back and just start mashing people. But the timing of it is very bad, obviously. And all the best go as well to Julia Hart because according to Fightful, there are early indications that she will require surgery on her shoulder. So unfortunate for her as well, too. A lot of injuries taking place. Hopefully everybody can get healed very soon. Back to put a bow on this thing when we get back. Wrestling Observer Live.
I think that Triple H has done a tremendous job as our Chief Creative Officer. I think that's his title. He has a few, earned every single one of them. I like ushering in new things and new times and new eras. And it feels like in our world here of professional wrestling, it is a new era that we're ushering in. I talked to Paul Levesque, Triple H, earlier as we were kicking off the show tonight, and without giving any detail on what we talked about, like it's a special night for him. This was the beginning of something and marking the beginning of something new for him under his creative. And I think from a company standpoint, this is an exciting time for the company, for WWE. It's an exciting time for TKO. You felt the convergence towards the end of the year when the acquisition happened. You felt the convergence in the first quarter of the year as I was fortunate enough to come back, and as we kind of traversed our way through what these storylines could look like. And so it's an exciting time, and I think we capped off day one of WrestleMania, this WrestleMania that we have stated was going to be the biggest of all time, which is really saying a lot, obviously, considering, given the givens and how many great WrestleManias there's been in the past. So I thought that we collectively, as a company and as a team, put out a really good show tonight. And the best part about putting out a great show tonight is you get to do it all over again tomorrow.
What we did tonight, it started in 2020, August of 2020, in order to attract a global superstar like my cousin. You gotta have your shit together. You gotta be on the up and up. You have to have something special going on because he always has something special being offered. So this had to have been something even greater than even Hollywood could offer him. And he does all kinds of stuff now. He's that successful. So for him to pay attention to us and want to be involved with what we're doing, it just speaks on how special the bloodline is and how we primed this place and made this place a destination for everybody. There's no question now. This is the place to be, and it's because of us. Through the most turbulent times, this has been the COVID, no fans, everything that's gone on. The tribal chief and the wise man keep it steady around here.
Back on the show, Mike Semper, BB, Filthy Tom Lawlor here with you. Final segment. Bryan Alvarez will be back on the show tomorrow, surely. Tom?
What'd you call me? Shirley?
Do you believe in Joe Hendry?
I believe he exists. I could
He does.
give you
And
that much information.
Trying to get his song to #1 across all streaming platforms and for purchase platforms. I don't know how else to say it now. I Believe in Joe Hendry, which did hit #1 today in the UK on Spotify and I believe iTunes. If this thing actually makes it to the end of the week, it will be played on BBC Radio 1 when they debut their weekly countdown this coming Friday. So if you really believe in TNA, if you really believe in Joe Hendry, folks, go out there, put in the work, do what you need to do. Just like New Japan has done with the Best of the Super Juniors. We have an addition. Dragon Dia is in from Dragon Gate, who replaces Ryusuke Taguchi, who went ass over tea kettle on his bicycle, tore himself up pretty good. He's going to miss the next couple of weeks. But, Tom, I don't know if you had a chance to see the blocks that were decided here, but any early thoughts?
Excuse me, Taguchi went, I'm going to say keister over a tea kettle. Is that not his gimmick?
Well,
Doesn't he have a formidable backside?
he does.
Proven. He's got to keep up kayfabe here, Taguchi.
I know, but
Oh, my
unfortunately, when he went over, his face hit first, and he's all tore up his face, his arms, all that sort of stuff. But
The only block I know about is the one that's coming up right here that's stopping us from talking anymore, Mike. I think you got to take it home, buddy.
I am indeed, and it's a well-needed block to throw us to the end. But Filthy, I'd like to thank you very much for stepping up today. I'd like to thank producer Jared on video, thank producer Dom behind the boards, and we shall talk to you again after a while.